welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us. This is Denison University's webinar on life at a PWI, primarily white institution. My name is Greg Garcia. I'm an Associate Director of Admission, and I am really excited to be here with you. My pronouns are he, him, his. I come from a first-gen, low-income Latino background, and so really happy to share my experiences with the university. I didn't graduate from Denison. I actually went to a school in Texas, but being an associate director, one of leadership in the Office of Admission, just to share with you my experiences and perspectives. But also we're joined by two current students. So I will allow them to introduce themselves, tell us a little bit about them, and then we can move forward. So Alex, can you start us off?
Hi, everybody. My name's Alex Rudrick. I'm from Baltimore, Maryland. I'm a junior at Denison with an English major and a minor in communication. On campus, I'm involved in a few things. The main one being Taylor and I are actually both co-members of That Black Girl podcast, which is a podcast that we run on campus to talk about what it's like being a Black woman at a predominantly white institution. I'm also a member of Greek Life. I work for the Office of Admissions, and I'm a Burpee, which is Denison's oldest, or actually the oldest collegiate improv group in the country. So yeah.
Hi guys, I'm Taylor Trumbull. I am a junior as well, originally from Chicago, Illinois. My major's in politics and public affairs and my minor's in educational studies. A couple things I do on campus, like Alex just said, I'm part of That Black Girl podcast. I'm also the vice president of the Black Student Union. And then I have a couple jobs specifically with the Knowlton Career Center, Office of Admissions, and with the Office of Residential Communities and Housing.
Awesome, thanks y'all for that. So this is essentially just a time for anyone who's attending here tonight to ask any questions they want about what it's like to attend Denison, get current students' perspectives, learn what their experiences have been like, good and bad. There are no taboo questions here, so please, if you just want to know anything, please ask us. It doesn't necessarily have to be about academics. It can be about student life. It can be about being social. It can be about Columbus, the town of Granville. So please feel free to ask any of those questions that you want to. This is a time for you to get some real perspective from some current students. So it's a really fantastic opportunity. Please take advantage and begin asking any questions. So first thing I want you to do just in the chat, if you don't mind, just put in the chat, tell us where you're from, where you're coming from, which state, so we can kind of get an idea of kind of who's in the audience. And I'll start us off with our first question to our two panelists, Alex and Taylor. And we'll start with this question. What has your experience been like being at Denison as a student?
Yeah, I can go first. So like I mentioned earlier, I'm originally from Chicago, Illinois, so very different than Granville, Ohio. But I will say when I came here, I was a little bit nervous. I'm not gonna lie. I was like, whoa, okay, I'm from a major city. This is a really tiny town. I don't know how I was gonna fit in. But I ended up finding a really, really strong community, specifically among the girls in my podcast who I met before I even had a podcast. I met them actually during our pre-orientation program dedicated to students of marginalized backgrounds called Paving the Way. So I definitely suggest you do the pre-orientation program if you're a little worried about fitting in on campus. So that is something that really made the difference in my life here at Denison. But then also just trying new things. When I got involved in the Black Student Union, I found a lot of mentors and friends within that. And that eventually ended up in me joining the executive board of the Black Student Union. So I would say I was very nervous at first. But trying different things, going to the involvement fair that we have at the beginning of the year and finding out the opportunities and place for me, that was the biggest thing. And I think that definitely translated to me having a community here on campus.
Definitely, I would just echo some of the things Taylor said. Absolutely, the community on campus is a big one. The podcast girls, I mean, just last week, they surprised me and took me out to dinner to help congratulate me for an opportunity I just got. And so the people that you surround yourself with are really a big part of what makes the campus community worth it. I think that Taylor was actually my very first Denison friend. I saw her on my Instagram page and I said, Snatchies, and I texted her, and it's been like that ever since. And additionally, finding experiences and opportunities in which you can partake, definitely a big part of it, but also the ways in which you can create opportunity at Denison and create what you want to see. And so podcasts, we were the first podcast that we knew of on campus. And so that was something that we created because we really wanted to open dialogue about what it's like being a Black woman at a PWI. And again, I also come from a major city, one that's very diverse and very different than living in rural Ohio. But we have Columbus right at our doorstep. It's only about 25 minutes from campus too. And so it helps to feel a little more at home having that environment, something I'm a little more used to right there.
Thanks for that. So we did get someone letting us know chat is disabled. So if you can use Q&A and just drop in the Q&A where you're coming from. So far we have Mexico City. Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us. North Carolina. So that's fantastic. Already international audience. That's great. So Q&A, I guess we're going to be using the Q&A. So we do have one question. And the question is, do you often find yourself being the only Black student or POC in your classes, or do your classes have a few other Black students within class? So for either of you, whichever one wants to jump in.
Yeah, so I would say primarily, yes, you often will be the only Black student in a class, but it also depends on the class and what you're taking, your class year and things like that. For example, I am in a Harlem Renaissance course right now, which there are other Black students in my class, also in my issues in Fem class that I'm taking right now. And so actually the semester, I'm not, in most of my classes, I'm not the only Black student in the classroom, but I definitely have been in environments and class spaces where I am, although I find that it doesn't feel uncomfortable. I find that I still am able to speak my mind and say what I want to say. But just realistically, yeah, we are a predominantly white school. And so typically you will be one of fewer Black or brown faces in the classroom.
Yeah, just to echo that, I mentioned earlier, my major is politics and public affairs. It's not the most racially diverse major. So I do find myself in most of my major classes being the only Black face in the room. It just is what it is. But at the same time, going off what Alex is saying, there are other classes that you're not, like it just really depends on the major. So I took a psychology course. I know there was a lot more Black and brown students there. I've taken anthropology and sociology. There's a lot more Black and brown students there. So it really just depends on the major or minor, I would say. But then echoing off what Alex said about feeling comfortable, I've always felt comfortable to just show up to the classroom as my authentic self. I mean, if that's something you struggle with, again, definitely the pre-orientation program, because I promise you are not the only one being the only Black student in the classroom. It happens to quite a few of us. So you're not alone with that situation.
Thank you for that. That was great. So we had someone else chime in and say, Ohio, thank you for joining us, a local. Columbus as well. So awesome, local, that's great. So another question here for either of you, how do you deal with imposter syndrome, especially in classes where you're the only or one of a few minorities? That's a fantastic question.
I guess I could go. I think, that's hard, right? I think it's definitely, you have to know your worth before you even enter the classroom. I think so who your circle is definitely impacts how you show up in the classroom, at least in my experience. So Alex mentioned earlier, we have a podcast together. We have 3 other girls on that podcast with us. I mean, they're my rock, right? Whenever I feel like I'm doubting myself, saying I'm the only Black person in this politics class and I do not know if I belong here, I go to them and I'm just like, this is what I'm feeling. And they just shower me with being like, no, you know you're enough, you know you're this, you know you're that. You just kind of have to like know yourself worth by yourself, but then also know it from your friends. Who you surround yourself with makes a big difference in your 4 years here. And I definitely recommend that you find those people.
I agree, absolutely. Your community is a huge part of what helps you grow. I think also imposter syndrome is often a college experience that many of us feel, just given that it's such a time of change and it's a time of growth and you're doing a lot of things that you've never done before and interacting with a lot of people you've never interacted with before. And so I think it's okay to sit in that discomfort. You know, that growing process is often an uncomfortable one. And so really figuring out, it's like, what do I need in order to feel comfortable in this space? Does that mean I need to reach out to my friends more? Does that mean I need to reach out to my families more? Does that mean, you know, I just want to dive into my work? Whatever it is for you personally that helps you get through that, you know, transition and growth period, because I think we all do feel that, especially when you're first year and you're transitioning. But I have to say that as I've gone through Denison, I'm current junior, I feel that less and less. I often don't feel like I don't deserve to be here, or I shouldn't be here. More so, I know what I'm bringing to the table, which I think Denison is just great in, especially in classes and relationships with your professors and your peers. You really get a good sense of the fact that everybody is rooting for you. We are a very cooperative environment at Denison, not so much on the competitive side. Certainly there are competitive opportunities, but typically we foster a campus and a classroom environment in which everybody is looking to elevate one another, as opposed to, you know, beat others out in that way.
Yeah, that's great. I'll also add on to this in terms of imposter syndrome. I know a lot of students experience this, not just at Denison, but all over the nation, the world, really. I've dealt with imposter syndrome being where I'm at. I'm part of leadership at a primarily white institution. And when you feel that way, and you may or may not, but you may, just know, in terms of being a student at Denison specifically, you were chosen for a reason. Our admit rate this year is 17%. It's highly selective. We as an office, as an admission committee, saw something in you. We saw greatness, we saw excellence. And if this is where you want to be, you are meant to be here. You belong. And so I try to remind myself of that. I try to remind any students that I speak with about that. We chose you for a reason. We need you in our space. And so if you ever do feel that way, just remind yourself that you earned this. You earned your spot at Denison. You belong here just as much as anyone else. And we did see that in you. We saw that the potential that you have and that you were going to bring to campus. So that's just another thing that I do, even as a working professional. I've been in higher ed for going on 11 years now. I just tell myself, I earned this. Put in the work, and Denison saw something in me to hire me. And so it's not just limited to students or to young people. It's a lot of people feel that way. So that was a great question. I just wanted to add that. So we got a few more people letting us know where they're from. Ghana, awesome. Thank you so much for joining us. I don't know what time it is there, but we appreciate you engaging. We have San Jose, California. That's fantastic. So next question, how do you deal with black hair? Do you go to Columbus or somewhere else?
That's a really great question. So yes, Columbus definitely has a lot of resources. I literally just found a new stylist in Columbus because I cut off all my hair earlier this semester, and I was like, uh-oh, what do I do? And so Columbus has a lot of great stylists, black hair stylists. We also just opened a vending machine on campus that's stocked with natural hair care products, because Denison recognized the ways in which they were in some ways putting Black students at a disadvantage by requiring them to go into Columbus, which is about a half an hour away, just for hair care products. And so they really wanted to ease that burden some on Black students and bring some of those products to campus, which is really exciting. And that vending machine is stocked with hair care products from a local hair care expert in the Columbus community. And so that's been a really cool addition to campus.
Yeah, going off that, I'm like the best person to ask where to get your hair done, because if you know me, I get my hair done so consistently. I would say that we have actually some people who do hair on campus. So I would say the Black girl community especially is very tight knit. You can just text a friend and be like, I need my hair done, and they'll do it. A big event's coming, we're all gonna help you take down your braids. We're all gonna help you find someone to go to. So there's stylists on campus. So I do a mixture. I do my hair on campus sometimes. One of my close friends does hair, but then also I go off campus to Columbus a lot. I'm actually going this Saturday. And if you do not have a car, I promise you're going to find someone within the week you're here at Denison who will take you anywhere. I promise. So you do have a lot of options with that. Just tap into the community that's already here because we got you.
Perfect. There is another question, or not, it's not really a question, but well, first of all, Mexico City, thank you for joining us. That's great. But there is a Q&A question here. It's I'm Asian. I think Asians are quite well represented at Denison based on my visit. I wish there was an Asian speaker today, though. I'll address that because I was in charge of this event. I will say I did try to find representation from our student workers, our docents is what we call them, to be on this panel. We are heading into finals. And the semester is almost up, graduation, all these types of things. We have a lot of admitted student events that are happening right now too. So it's really hard to try to pin down some students who would be representative of kind of our docents and kind of our overall student body. So I did try to get as much representation as possible. We're very lucky to have Alex and Taylor with us. They're extremely busy students. And so, but I agree. I wish we had more students, but you know, we are working on limited schedules, limited time. There's a lot of things going on, but we are extremely lucky to have Alex and Taylor here representing our students. So really happy to have them. But I hear you. So going on to the next question, what are the setbacks non-white students should know before coming to campus?
I think just in terms of visually, if you're used to a predominantly Black or predominantly very like culturally mixed environment, definitely an environment that is not necessarily that can be a bit daunting at first. Again, I'm from Baltimore. I did go to a predominantly white institution, but like a high school, but you know, when I wasn't at school, I was always surrounded by different kinds of faces. And so just in terms of just looking around you, that can feel a bit different. So just understanding that that is a part of Denison and that is currently where we're at in terms of campus representation is important.
Yeah, I also think going back to an earlier question that was asked, like, depending on what you major in, there may not be a lot of faces that look like you. And I'm particularly targeting like my Black individuals in the chat today. Like, I'm in politics. I was the first one to walk in. I was the only, and I have been the only for quite some time. And at first it's a little daunting. You're just like, whoa. But I think that's something you do get over, and something that, again, like if you connect with your support system, again, if you like know your worth and you remind yourself your worth daily, you do get over. But it is something to take into consideration when you're first coming into, especially if you're not used to that.
Yeah, great. I'll also say whether you're Black, Latino, Asian, whatever non-white race or ethnicity you're coming in as, coming into a primarily white institution, it's all about how you make connections and how you want to build your own community. There are plenty of resources. There are plenty of student clubs and organizations. There are plenty of your peers who are looking for that community, who are looking to connect with you. And so you are not alone. So just know that coming into these spaces, you do have people behind you, whether it's your peers, whether it's faculty, whether it's staff like myself. We are here for you to help you build those communities. And so just know that this is going to apply to any student and also your white counterparts as well. Because the student experience, there are some universal aspects to it, you know, leaving your home for the first time, coming into a new environment, trying to make new friends, build those new communities, get used to a new kind of lifestyle. That's kind of some universal things that all students face. So just know that you do have people here who are going to support you. So The next question is, what other Black or international events programs have you participated in, and how was your experience?
I think Taylor is really apt to talk about this because she's in the midst of big stuff for BSU and all.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, guys, like it's amazing. We're right now in the week of Culture Jam. Culture Jam is this big event that the Black Student Union hosts where it's a week-long programming. And at the end of the week, we bring our high-time Black identifying artists to come and perform. So we've had some pretty cool names. We've had PNB Rock, we've had Young M.A., we've had Key Glock, we just had Rico Nasty last year, and this year we have Tink. So some really, really cool artists we're having that the Black Student Union brings free of charge for all Denison students to come enjoy. And then in terms of events outside the Black Student Union, because we do a lot of events, this is one of our biggest events. We have another one in February called Black Heritage Ball, where we have Black performers perform for all of us. We give awards. We typically decorate the space with Black artwork and other Black masterpieces just to celebrate Black excellence on this campus. But outside the Black Student Union, we have a lot of other cool events. We have this group called ACSA, the African Caribbean Student Association, and they have this really cool event that just happened last weekend, actually called My African Night. They have a slew of performances. So we actually had drummers come who actually performed in Black Panther 1 and 2. We had a model show, we had a runway, we also had like dance competitions, we had a keynote speaker. It was just a really, really great time. And then for the Denison Asian Student Union, there are a lot of events. So they have these like night markets. So it can vary on the culture. So this week is coming, I think it's a Cambodian night market. So they're serving food, they're doing traditional games. They have that for just a lot of different Asian cultures because there are a lot of Asian cultures. Very, very popular. So yeah, that's just a couple of the events we do. If you are interested in knowing more, because I'm the person to go to for that, I will give my email in the chat and you guys can shoot me an email. I can talk to you more about that. But there are some really, really cool events, and those are just the big scale events too. We have a lot of smaller events that are just as impactful as well.
She did it. I'm good.
I also dropped in the chat a link to our clubs and organizations. I do see that there's a question regarding Greek life. I'm going to drop this link in here too. This is our link to our fraternity and sorority life page, so you can take a look there. But the question basically is, can you speak to multicultural Greek life at Denison? Is it heavily Greek? Also, do students of color pledge predominantly white fraternities or sororities?
Yeah, so in Greek life at Denison, I would, for one, not say it's necessarily heavily Greek. About a third of students are involved in Greek life in some capacity. And so it's definitely like a good community on campus, but not by any means a majority. I myself am a part of Greek life. I'm a part of a Pan-Hellenic sorority, and so not a part of the D9, though we do have D9 organizations on campus. Just today, we had what was it? It was Sigma, it was Alpha, AKA, and Delta. We're performing as a part of Culture Jam, which was a really amazing event, just right outside on the quad, Slater flagpole. And so both exist. You can join D9 organizations or you can join Pan-Hellenic organizations. You can join neither. It actually does not affect your experience. It just depends on you as an individual and what kind of experience you're looking to have on campus.
I kind of want to add on to that too. So we do have Divine Nine. So that's National Pan-Hellenic Council, so MPHC. We also have MGC, which is Multicultural Greek Council. So those are historically multicultural organizations, typically Hispanic though. So you do have the option with that as well. Divine Nine is a little bit different here because we do have chapters here that are specifically Denison students, but we do have certain chapters like the AKAs, for example. That is going to be a regional chapter, so they connect with schools such as like Capital and Otterbein. So it is there if you want it. Like Alex said, it is there if you want it. If you don't, totally fine. But you do have 3 council options to pick from. So you do have a lot of options if you do decide to go that route. Either route you go, you'll get a lot of support. I know the AKAs recently had their probate in Columbus. Denison, we rented out a van to like have students go out to support them, even people who are not into Greek at all. So again, definitely there if you want it. If you don't, that's okay. I'm personally not in Greek, but I always show up to support my fellow Greeks.
Great. So the next question is, do you feel you're given the same opportunities as your white peers? Also, do you feel set to step into the real world that you'll have a job ready and available?
I think For one, to answer the first question, I do feel like given the same opportunities as my white peers in all aspects. So whether it's study abroad, which I did take advantage of this past semester, or if it's research opportunities, or if it's professional opportunities, absolutely. I feel like I have the exact same resources. And obviously, a lot of it is down to you as an individual and actually utilizing those resources. Things don't typically fall in your lap in life, but they're always there. So whether you want to go to the Knowlton Center for career opportunities and career engagement, or the Liska Center for intellectual pursuits and things like that, it's all accessible to students. I also, yes, feel like I am, obviously Taylor and I are juniors, so we're a little bit a ways, but I definitely feel like once I graduate, I will be ready to step out into the world and take on a career. Taylor and I were internship girlies as well, and so we always have some exciting stuff coming up during the summers. And so I feel like while at Denison, I've gotten some really amazing professional experience. I can even just speak for the ways in which the admissions office has allowed me to take on more responsibility as a student. So I can learn more about marketing and campaigns and things like that. And that was an opportunity that I asked for, and they said, absolutely. Like, if that is something you want to do, we don't usually do that, but you asked. And so you can absolutely have a part of that. And so, yeah.
Yeah, I want to go off that too. I do think it's an individual choice to go to the Career Center. I actually work for the Career Center specializing in nonprofit government education. I always suggest that even as a first semester in even during your first semester in college, go to the Career Center. You do not have to know what you want to do, but they will help you cultivate skills that when the time comes to apply for internships, you are a very competitive applicant. Now, I do understand that going to the Career Center, especially at a predominantly white institution, can be daunting. I do get that. A lot of resources, you may not know what to find. You want to talk to someone, they may not look like you, get a little nervous. I get that. The Black Student Union actually does this event that we're hoping to make annual called Reaching the End Goal, where we actually station tables outside on the commons outside the student union. So even while you're walking, you can stop by, get a quick photo for a LinkedIn profile. We'll check your resume right there. We'll give you advice. We'll even sign you up for a career community. Career communities are basically like communities that are in different fields. So we'll have like tech and data, clinical healthcare and research. You sign up, you get notifications for internship opportunities and panel opportunities, and any alum who are coming back to campus who are looking for applicants for internships. So the Black Student Union and other organizations that are affinity groups, they will help you with that. We will, if you are too scared to do it yourself, we are a helping hand for that. So yes, it is an individual choice, but you do have a lot of help in the organizations around you. Now, in terms of do I feel as if I get the same opportunity, I would say most definitely. This past summer, I actually had the opportunity to work with the Brookings Institution, which is one of the leading political think tanks in the US. I worked under Dr. Rayshawn Ray, who has been on CNN countless times. I was like fangirl when I was working with him. I didn't think I would ever get an opportunity like that, but I truly do think your professors, the Career Center and administration want you to succeed regardless of your race. I think it's all about taking that initiative, using the resources that are available to you.
I would just add on one extra thing. I mean, just in terms of what is indicative of campus culture, our president, Adam Weinberg, helped me secure an internship with Disney for this upcoming summer. And so it's really top down, like that is something our president did. And so that attitude is pervasive throughout campus.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. I will say, to add on to all of that, I was previously recruiting at Vanderbilt University before I came to Denison. And I often get the question, why did you leave Vanderbilt? And it was really a simple matter of what Denison represents for their students and how they talk about their students. That was the big differentiator for me, which kind of bleeds into this job ready. Are you ready for that? The way that Denison speaks about their students is all about their futures. What are we preparing our students for? What can we help you with personally, which you don't hear very often, it's all professional, but what can we do to help you achieve your personal goals, but also your professional goals? And so there's a lot of resources that are poured into that. We're one of the very few institutions in the nation that pay our students for their internships. If they find an internship that's unpaid, we have resources for that. So we put a lot of focus and emphasis on making sure you're ready, you're career ready, but you're also personally ready for whatever you're going to move on to next. And there's a lot of opportunities for you to take advantage of, but as it was mentioned, it's up to you to take advantage of those opportunities. We'll present them to you, but you have to take that step. So just adding on that piece, and it's one of the main drivers of why I decided to join Denison, is that specific piece of preparing their students for their futures. We want you to have a good time while you're on our campus, but also we want to make sure that you're going to have an impact when you leave us. So that's a really big deal for me, and I know for a lot of our faculty and staff and our students. So so we have this question here. Are there a lot of POC professors? We had the same question. Do you see POC representation among staff as students at Denison? So I'll answer that really quickly, but Alex and Taylor, feel free to jump in. But we have some work to do on that front. I'm going to link up our faculty page. You can see for yourself kind of who encompasses our faculty here in the chat. We do have representation. In my opinion, we do have work to do, and I think it's the same for a lot of institutions across America. Not that I'm making any excuses for Denison or for higher education in general, but we do have some work to do. But that's my 2 cents. You can see our faculty right there at that link I dropped in the chat, and you can kind of see what it looks like for yourself. But Alex and Taylor, if you have anything to add.
Yeah, I would say I agree. I think we do have work to do, but I also want to say don't let teachers not look like you discourage them from being a resource. I will say the people who have put me on to job opportunities and internship opportunities have been the people who did not look like me. I have this professor, Dr. Andrew Cass, if any of you are interested in politics. I mean, I go to his office hours just to talk about anything. He was the person who told me about the Brookings Institution opportunity, and I was like, are you kidding me? I used to read articles from Brookings, and I never thought I'd be working for them. He was the one who put me onto that, right? So I think, yes, we have a lot of work to do, but do not let it discourage you from finding a mentor within your faculty, because I promise you, they do have your best interest at heart. And I can speak, every one of the politics professors who I've had, I can have lunch with, have dinner with, I know them very well, they know me very well. And I will say there are strides we are making. So for example, for the politics department, they're bringing in a professor who used to be an associate professor at OSU for Black Studies to teach a course called African Americans in the Law. So we are making strides in that way.
I would just reemphasize exactly what Taylor said, which is that despite you having professors that don't necessarily look like you, they are excellent resources nonetheless. I know within the English department, there are not many POC professors. However, I've had nothing but so much support and so much love from that department all the way around, all the way through. And so just emphasizing that.
Absolutely. So the next question is another, well, this is what it says, another Asian American admittee here, possible English major. How is Asian representation in the humanities as opposed to science and math? I can give you my perspective as an admission officer who was working to admit you all. Again, we have some work to do in terms of representation in the humanities. I don't think that's for a lack of trying, though. I will say, just contextually, in terms of majors that are popular, and just in general, not necessarily at Denison, we're known for our arts programs, our humanities programs. But I will say, just in general, in terms of just overall representation, it leans more to STEM, to science and math, because that's what's popular right now. Just in general at Denison, though, we do have really strong humanities, really strong arts programs. As I said, that's what we're known for, but Asian representation within those, it's a little lower, I would say. But Alex and Taylor, if you have anything to add to that.
Yeah, so again, I am an English major. And so you get to know kind of your cohort of who else is an English major in your year pretty well. And we definitely do have some representation across the board. Again, it is a PWI, so it is predominantly white students within the major. However, I find I'm not too bothered typically about it. What I also like to mention is that we are generally liberal leaning campus. And so in terms of the conversations that we're having in the classroom, I don't feel like just because I'm one of the only people that look like me or one of the only POC in the room that every time we talk about, you know, a Black character or a Black, author, everybody's like looking at me and being like, oh, so you have something to say? That's definitely not the culture of Denison. Also, especially because the professors we do have are most definitely experts in their fields. And so they understand how to teach material without burdening Black students or POC students with educating their class about their experience or needing you to bring up any racial trauma you may have in order to educate your classmates. That is not my experience, and that's never been something I've been interested in. And so I'm glad that that isn't something I feel required to do as a student within the humanities, where we are having a lot of conversations about like race and gender and class and a lot of very personal experiences and identity marks. So yeah.
Perfect. So the next question is, regardless of where any of us as students end up, what is one piece of advice you can give regarding the shift to college, especially at PWI? Also, I understand Denison has multiple resources for those who don't identify as white. How did it feel to join such groups and reach out to those who may be in those groups?
I think in terms of general advice for anyone, anywhere you go, understanding what you value and what really matters to you will help you get a lot out of your college experience, no matter where you are. So figuring out what kind of resources you want to tackle first, figuring out what kind of clubs and organizations you're kind of on the hunt for. But with that, at the same time, being open to new experiences, you are going to change so much during your college career. And so just being open to the fact that the thing you might like might end up being a thing that you didn't anticipate you'd like. I mentioned earlier that I'm a part of an improv troupe. That was not at all a part of what I thought I would be doing in college when I was coming from high school, but it was an experience that kind of just came to me that I found was something I really enjoyed. And so I was just open and receptive to the thing that brought me happiness. And so really, understanding what you value, but also being open to that changing is important.
I think my biggest piece of advice, no matter what institution you go to, as long as it's a predominantly white institution, I would say take care of yourself. If you have never been in a space that is predominantly white, it can be extremely challenging. And taking care of yourself it can look really different for different people, right? It could be hanging out with your friends, it could be having alone time, it could be calling home. Like I know when I first came here and I experienced a little bit of imposter syndrome, I called my dad. I was just like, do I belong here? Is this right for me? And he was the first one to say like, yes, you earned that. You do belong here. So I feel like having a self-care routine that works for you already in place before you enter a predominantly white institution, I think is everything.
Yeah, I'll say also, coming from an admission officer perspective, we admitted you. We want you to come to Denison, but we also realize that Denison isn't for everyone. And I always say, whenever I'm meeting with students, prospective students and families, I am coming as a representative of Denison, but I'm also coming from my experiences and my perspectives from my own personal lived life. And I was first gen, low income. And so I always advocate for education, period. Get your education. I don't care if it's at Denison or any of the other institutions who may have admitted you or didn't admit you, get your education, period. It will open doors you could not have even imagined. I never imagined I would have visited 27 countries. That was all possible because I got my education, and it opened those doors for me. So, and I can give multiple examples for that, but that's my biggest piece of advice. Whether you decide to come to Denison or not, we'd love to have you, but get your education, period. So the second part of that, how did it feel to join groups for students who don't identify as white? And what was it like to reach out to those who are in those groups?
I mean, it was amazing. I honestly cannot imagine my Denison experience without the Black Student Union, right? Like I joined my freshman year, I joined on their mini freshman exec board, and I haven't looked back since. I mean, I've made some of the closest friends, great mentors. I actually saw one of my mentors who graduated. He works at NBC now. I just saw him today, actually, like an hour ago at a dinner. Yeah, like it was great. Like I highly do recommend it. And I think that if it's not for you, it's not for you, but at least you have that resource, right? Like you don't have to go to all the Black Student Union meetings, but they have resources in place to help you. You can be a passive member, an active member if you want. You don't have to do like an exec position like I did. That's not necessary. But just know they are a resource. We have our own space on campus, actually. It is on West Quad, which is actually where I'm at right now. It's a great resource. So I honestly, I don't regret it. I'm looking to be president next year. It made that much of a difference in my life. And I really do suggest, if you're interested, just try it out.
The other part of that is it's very easy. I am not a very active member of BSU. However, it's very easy. Like, you don't have to try to be involved. You can go to whatever events you want, whenever you want, be as involved or as uninvolved in whatever capacity you want to be. And so I even found that my freshman year, a lot of upperclassmen or older students were approaching me to make those connections, because I find that older POC on campus, they really look out for the first years. They really want to know you. They want to make those connections. They want to have mentorship relationships. And so a lot of it is just a part of the culture that we have at Denison.
Thank you for that. So the next question is, are all the teachers and other staff welcoming to minorities? Any we should watch out for?
I would say 100% yes, they are super welcoming. I mean, from the people who work in admissions to my professors, to the people who check out my food, to the people who help clean the halls. I like talk to them. I could talk to them for like hours. Like, they're always so happy. They greet me with a smile. Like, they're great. It's the point where like on first name basis now, like some of them know my name. So I would say, yeah, like they're really, really friendly, which again, I was not expecting coming from a big city like Chicago to come into rural Ohio. I was really like, okay, what is this going to be like? But no, I was really happily surprised.
I agree. I've never had any issues with any professors on campus. Certainly there have been classes that I've liked more than others. I'm an English girly, so I took econ and I was like, this isn't for me, but that wasn't against the professor. That was just a class thing, and that's normal. But like Taylor said, I mean, I've yet to encounter a member of faculty or staff or someone who's not willing to engage if you were to talk with them and have a nice conversation, get to know your name, learn about you, all of that good stuff.
And I will say, from an administration standpoint, if you do decide to come here and you do have an issue with a faculty member or a staff member, let someone know, and we'll take care of it. That's the kind of institution that Denison is. It may not happen as quickly as someone may want, but it will happen. Conversations will be had, and things will be taken care of. So just know that our administration is very supportive of our students. If you have any issues, you can let us know, and there's not going to be reprisal, or we will support you, and we'll make sure to handle those issues as they come. So just know that that's the kind of administration that's at Denison as well. So the next question is, why did you decide to enroll, knowing beforehand that Denison might not have lots of people with the same background as you?
Yeah, so for me, a lot of it really had to do with, it was a couple things. It was the kind of campus community, like the culture that I wanted. So a small liberal arts environment was something I knew I wanted in my university when I was going through my college process. It was the professional opportunity that was offered, and just opportunity in general. Again, things like study abroad. Here at Denison, we have something called a home fee, in which whatever financial aid or merit aid or anything like that that you receive from Denison, you also get with your abroad program. And so whatever you pay to go to Denison, you pay to go study abroad. And so it's not any kind of difference in price there, and things like that. Support around those various kinds of opportunities I knew was very plentiful at Denison. And so that was a big reason, but also academic rigor and reputation. I definitely wanted to go somewhere that I was challenged as an individual and challenged as an intellectual. And so those were a few of my top values and things that I wanted. It's also worth mentioning, Taylor and I both were going through the college process in a COVID year. And so I never got to visit. I can't remember if you ever visited, but I never got to get on campus. But if I did, I would have felt the same. I think the second I stepped on campus, my first year, I knew this was the place for me. But those were just a few things that really stood out to me about Denison.
I would honestly echo the three big reasons she said are my exact three big reasons too. But I want to narrow on the professional development part. That's a huge thing here. And I think when you're looking for a college or a university, it's all about that career preparation and professional development. You want to know what the school can do for you to make you succeed after it, right? That's all what college is about, right? So I would say that was the biggest thing for me. And when I came here, the resources were, I mean, amazing. We have a bunch of different funds, like Greg mentioned. We have the Denison internship program, which provides you with a stipend that is for unpaid or low paid internships. They are very, very generous. And then we even have a career support fund that will help you pay for MCAT fees, LSAT fees, business wear, and plane tickets. I'm studying for the LSAT right now. I'm taking it in June. When I told them that, they pay for everything. They pay for a premium subscription with Kaplan. They have me going to classes. They pay for all my books. I mean, they were amazing. I truly do think that they help you for post-grad. Like, they are amazing with that. And that was what I was looking for. I was looking for that financial support, but also that support in like, okay, what are my options? They helped me list out all my options. They helped me figure out target schools, safety schools, reach schools, all that. They were incredibly thorough. And I could not have asked for a better career center, honestly.
Awesome. So the next question is, would you say your white peers are open-minded? From a scale of 1 to 10, how much?
I think, like I said before, we are a liberal campus. So generally there's a liberal attitude on campus. I'm politically leaning liberal, but at the same time, it is a college campus. So you have people coming from all over, from different backgrounds, different upbringings. And so if I had to assign a number, I think I would say 7.5, simply because we are very much left-leaning politically, in that way, but you certainly will encounter people who challenge you in a way that maybe you haven't been challenged before, or maybe in a way you don't agree with. And I don't even necessarily see that as a bad thing. I think it is important to know how to interact with people who are different than you and believe different things than you, and all of that kind of stuff, because that's a lot of what you encounter just in life. You know, you might end up in a professional space where you have a coworker who is different than you. And so how do you engage with people in a professional way when they are challenging your beliefs in that way? And so having that experience in a place like this, it's where it's safe to have those conversations, is important. And so I'm glad that it's not everybody thinks the exact same way on campus. And Taylor, you being a poli-sci, you know, that's really important for you.
Yeah, I'm going to be completely honest. Denison's very politically active. I mean, from voter registration, that's a really big thing here. But we also have a lot of different political groups across the political spectrum that are very active here. So we have the Denison Democrats, we have the Denison Democratic Socialists, we have Denison Republicans, we have the Denison Libertarians. We have a lot of different political groups here. And like Alex said, it's not always a bad thing, especially for me being a politics major. I don't want to be an echo chamber personally. You're never going to grow. You're never going to learn. And in politics, it's really important to learn how to compromise, learn how to hear other people's ideas and move forward. And that's just a really important skill. But I would go with Alex's number and assign a 7, only because I've been in plenty of classes where people have extremely different opinions than me. But like Alex said, that's a good thing. You're not going to learn, be able to exchange ideas if you're not used to interacting with people who are different than you. And all of us are going to end up in jobs where people are going to be significantly different from us. And you don't want to go into that and it be a shocker, because that's not how life's going to work.
Very well said. So we have around 10 or so minutes now left. We don't have to use the full amount of time, but if you have any more questions for us, please drop them in the Q&A. In the meantime, I do have a question. Have you faced, either of you, Taylor, Alex, have you faced any challenges attending a PWI?
I don't know if I faced any large, like, institutional challenges. I mean, certainly there have been people I've encountered that I've liked more than others, but I think that's a part of life, and that's a part of being in an environment where there's a lot of different kinds of people. But I can't say that I've had challenges, like, you know, academically, you know, time management, but in terms of being a Black student on campus, not so much. Just because I think having the community that I have and having the podcast and Taylor and the rest of them has been so integral for my experience, having people always to support me and fall back on when I am struggling in any way.
I think I've definitely had situations where I was like, I wouldn't have said that. I think it's just the nature of being a politics major. I think you hear things that I would call microaggressive, you hear things that like are just ignorant because people just simply don't know any better. And it's frustrating and it's annoying. But again, tapping on that support system is the biggest thing. And I think but beyond that, the one thing I found really difficult was being in my politics major. When I realized I was like the only Black kid in the class of 2024 doing it, I was like, whoa, that was a shocker for me. And I think my sophomore year, when I was really solidifying my major, I was just like, I was so unsure. I was so hesitant. I was so insecure about my work, even though consistently I have proven I belong there, right? But again, tap on that support system. I called my dad. I was just like, I do not know if I can do this. And he was just like, hold on. And he gave me his little church lecture and I was fine. But yeah, I think that was the biggest thing. I think when you are facing something like you are the only in a major, the only in a class, it's difficult. And I think tapping on your resources you do have is really, really important. And that's something that I found I've done. And it's been extremely helpful since my time here.
Fantastic. Well, it doesn't look like we have any more questions. So we can, well, let's see. Oh, no, we do have one. What will happen to the Black Girl podcast when you graduate?
That's a tough question that we've been going back and forth on.
That's what she says, but I already know my decision. I just don't think it should be down. I think it should be a thing that we keep to ourselves personally. I just think it's so cool how like just 5 Black girls just found their way in a friend group. Like we just like, it was just like really magical. And I feel like that's something we should just keep for ourselves. And we're already kind of mourning because Miss Alex Redrick here is going to Disney for 6 months. She was modest. She made it seem like it was for the summer. No, she's going to be there for 6 months. And so we already are losing a member. So I really do think we should keep it for ourselves. I think we'll do a little Zoom situation and post episodes on Spotify.
It's Angel. She says she has her decision. I personally, I would like to see it pass. We're still in discussion. It's ongoing, but we have a little bit of time. But yes, I won't be there next semester. So really it will be up to the rest of the girls, I think.
Oh, awesome. We had another question come in. How does Denison's location impact you as students?
So I was definitely nervous coming from a large, predominantly Black city, going to a small, very white town. But I have to say, I really love Granville. I haven't experienced any issues down in Granville as an individual. The residents have always been very kind and just really willing to like interact with you as a student, as a person, get to know you, let you pet their cute dogs, all of that kind of stuff. Now, what I do always like to say, just being fully candid, is that, you know, we're in Ohio. And so Ohio is itself a red state. And so when you're outside of the Granville community, there are certainly communities in which you're like, I don't know how much I want to be here, but I tend not to spend so much time. I mean, there's no reason to. There's nothing in those communities for me. And so I go right on past them to Columbus, which is predominantly Black, and I have a great time.
I will also say I'm a big fan of Granville. Again, like I really did not know I would like that town because I was like, I was so small. But it's the point where like we have these like cute little boutiques and shops, and I go to the chocolatier down the hill. They know my name. They know my order. Actually, they have it already prepped when I go down there. There's this bakery I go to too. They know my name. They know my major. They know I'm graduating. Like it's a thing. So I honestly think they're really friendly. Like at first I was a little like, especially because we did come during a Republican election too. So that was a big thing too. So we were kind of a little worried about that, but no, they're great. It was really sweet. It was really welcoming. And I never really had that back home in Chicago, that like personalized feel from a business. So it's been really sweet.
I completely forgot that we were in the midst of an election when we came to Denison. And a memory that I have that I will never forget was going down to town right immediately after the election. Biden won. And there was a mom on her lawn dancing with a beer in her hand, and her toddler was just running around with like a Biden flag. And it was the funniest thing I had ever seen in my entire life. It was like really funny.
Yeah, I will say it's one of the challenges, but it's also one of the pros of coming to Denison is we are in a rural community. You do get a really nice small town feel, but there's a lot of pros that come with small town living. The people are very community oriented. They're very welcoming. Even for myself, coming in as a new staff member. It's been nothing but warmness and sharing love. So it's been great. I can't really speak for the rest of Ohio and what's going on there in those communities, but I can tell you that Granville has been fantastic, and Columbus is fantastic as well. So, but again, there's a lot of mix of political ideologies, religious affiliations, you know, so you're going to get a lot of different perspectives, but that's one of the reasons you come to college, just to be able to grow as a person and meet those people. So yeah, very well said. So I think this is going to be our last question. Is there a lot to do both on and off campus, in town, Columbus?
I would say most definitely, right? So we always have things happening on campus throughout the week, and especially on Fridays and Saturday nights. And there's a variety of things happening. So if you want to go to a social function, you can. If you're more of like a movie person, a sip and paint person, you can do that as well. Also, you can go to Columbus too, even if you do not have a car. So we actually have shuttles that run on Friday and Saturday from 5 to 7 and 7 to 9. That'll take you to Easton, which is this big shopping mall in Columbus with a bunch of restaurants, a movie theater, and a bunch of little shops. It's really great. So even if you don't have a car, you can still go. And again, you're going to be someone with a car who will take you everywhere. A lot of us do go to OSU to go to their social functions and their events. And a lot of people from other schools actually come to our events as well. So there is a lot of things to do both on campus and both off campus. And they do serve a variety of interests.
Yeah, exactly the same. I think it's best of both worlds, right? You have on-campus functions and on-campus events, which are smaller, more intimate and community-oriented, but you can definitely branch out into the wider community that we're a part of, and Easton and Columbus, and engage there as well.
Yeah, I think that's going to end things for us tonight. Thank you all for joining us. We really appreciate you engaging, asking questions. If you do have any more questions, you can always email us at admission@denison.edu. I linked my email as well, my personal email there. And then Alex and Taylor just dropped their emails. Please reach out to us. Please ask questions. That's what we're here for. We love hearing from you all and helping you to gain any kind of clarity that you want. Thank you to Alex and Taylor for joining us this evening. Really, really appreciate it. You all do so much for us, and it does not go unnoticed. You're rock stars. Thank you so much. I hope everyone has a good morning, good evening, good afternoon, depending on where you are in the world. Again, thank you for joining us. We really appreciate it. Have a fantastic rest of your day, evening, morning. Again, please ask any questions after this. You have our emails. Thank you so much. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you all for coming.
Bye.